here on the stage. We're going to have them start by introducing themselves.
Hi, I'm Aaron Silvestre, going to Mountain View Middle School, and I live in Goffstown.
I'm Brooklyn Brackett, and I go to Goffstown High School.
I'm Jessica McGregor, and I'm a sophomore at Goffstown High School.
So what were some of the things that you came up with?
We wanted to focus on incentives and disincentives for children and their access barriers for drugs. So access barriers are ways to improve access to opportunities and create barriers from dangers for youth in their communities. We really wanted to increase supervision.
What we want to do with supervision is create more supervision from class transitions, because we find that, especially in our school, there's not many teachers watching youths go class to class, and we just want to make sure teachers just come, step out, and look around in the hallways to make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to do and not making poor decisions.
We also wanted to talk about different kinds of sign-out logs for classes.
So we would like to implement and create sign-out logs and also enforce. So sign-out logs are pieces of paper where teachers can keep track of where the students are going. So say they're going to the nurse, the teacher would be able to see where the student is going, sign the pass, and when the student gets to the nurse can sign out, and then go back to the teacher, and the teacher can make sure that they have been where they are. So this could work perfectly in case anyone is missing and they just want to know where they have been.
We also wanted to implement more late buses in schools. Our schools are lucky enough to have them until 5 o'clock, so we can hang out in our libraries, talk to our teachers or tutors, or even just work on the computers if we don't have our own at home. And I think that's really important, especially when the dropping of grades comes with doing drugs. If we give them that opportunity to spend their time in a safe place and improve their life, I think it would be very beneficial overall. Also, like I said, tutors are very important. Because their grades are dropping, it might not only be a lack of motivation, but also understanding. So if they know that there's people there to help them, we can give them that chance at a better life.
Another strategy we have are incentives and disincentives. And incentives are reasons and other things for kids to do to not do drugs. So having other outlets other than turning to drugs, like clubs and other things like that. And disincentives are reasons for, whether they're physical or law enforcement wise, to not do drugs.
Like she said, we want to work more with motivational incentives like clubs such as Generation Prevention Society, like Mr. Webb was talking about. It offers them fun choices to go spend their days, like going to Boston for a day or Six Flags, or just another activity that's safe for them and their friends. We would also like to implement more school clubs that we can know their interests and take up their time so they're not spending it in a dangerous place.
So along that subject, we would like to know where the students are usually at most of the time, so we would like to imply attendance rewards. Attendance rewards can be when the teachers know a student has been in school for a set amount of days, they get a reward. Like at the end of the month, they get a free grade of participation of just being at school. So the teachers can always know that they're not somewhere off doing something that they're just not supposed to do. So the teachers can always keep track of where the students are.
That's it.
So thank you, panel. A lot of those points sound like focus starts at school.
Yeah, if I could speak to that, one of the things that I work with my students on is monitoring. I say that which gets monitored gets done. That's true of my own family that's here tonight, you know, in terms of checking in and you know, when somebody's going out, say, okay, make good choices and tell us where you're going to be and who are your parents. I mean, I know part of the audience that will see this tonight are parents and grandparents, and to take away these suggestions that the kids have about, you know, be accountable and make that personal connection versus being on your phone and have planned dinner time. My question for these fine Goffstown students would be, what would be that incentive for you? What would be that one or two things that would really make a difference around, you know, an incentive that would work?
I think we have just so many clubs at our school that's incredible, and I would really like for other schools around the greater Manchester area to have those same opportunities. I think anybody in our school could find a club that shows their interests and kind of occupies their time as a student, and I think it's also just a great experience to have overall in high school.
Brooklyn, how about the bus issue? I found that interesting when I was listening to the other kids over the weekend talk about some of them don't have the late bus. So as much as they'd like to be part of a club or an after-school activity or a sporting event, they don't have that option. And they're dropped off back at their house, and most of them are left making do with whatever they can outside. And you know, I think that's something that was a great point that you guys brought up that hopefully we can look at here in the state.
Right, and Governor, maybe you can take that one.
Well, you know, one thing that we have to remember is we're coming to the end of the school year. Right, so I think what we're hearing here is a lot about creating structure and opportunities, safe opportunities for kids after school. But then let's not forget what happens when summer vacation comes, right? You know, we talk. I don't mean to conflate the two issues, but we talk about the 68 hours of hunger, right? We have kids that go hungry in our state, and we make sure that they have those meals over the weekend, and then we talk about what we're going to do over the summer. It's a very similar issue we're dealing with here, when it's these lapse times that we have to provide quality programming, and we have great programs in the state, where it's the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club and all these programs that can be strong and provide strength and structure, but it's only as good as the access. It's only as good as the access points. The other issue, if I may, is we're talking a lot about what's going on in Goffstown and Manchester and some of these cities. This is an epidemic that affects all 200 cities and towns in the state. Nobody isn't affected by this. So when you get outside of those cities, the access to transportation becomes even more severe because it's more of a rural area, right? Sometimes you can't even see your neighbor. You know, a lot of us live in areas where the houses are physically far apart, so the isolation becomes even more deep. And so when you're looking at whether it's the summertime or after-school programs, and then expanding that in terms of the critical nature of this across the state, the impact of this issue just becomes so great.
Jim or John, I'm not sure which of you said this, but one of you made the point of using peer pressure in a positive way. So I'm wondering, when you all talk to your friends and you're involved in something and you work to get your friends involved in something, is that what makes it successful, that you're reaching out and making those connections on a one-to-one?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because it's peer-based, they listen to you. Your friends listen to you, and they have interests in what you're interested in. So if you're very interested in a club that you're doing, and you tell your friend and reach out to them, they may join the club and have interest in it too.
I'm realizing that we're in a group of adults, but when we can get our friends to join our clubs, not only do we have a familiar face there to be able to be confident enough to make new friends, but it's also more of friendly encouragement than scolding from an adult.
And this group, John, also made a really interesting point about taking personal responsibility, making sure their teachers know where they are, they check in with guidance. That's a unique quality. Are you starting to hear that in young people, that they're ready to take this head on, take responsibility?
The one thing we keep hearing over and over again from these young kids, it started with the youth rally and it's continued every school that I've been to, is don't just tell us what not to do. Tell us why and make us part of the solution. And that's exactly what we're seeing here today. These kids that are here represented, and the ones that didn't get to come tonight, wanted to be part of this solution. They gave up their weekend and they're thinking big. You know, they're part of it. We reached out to them at the summit, at the end of the summit, and we said, we need your help. And these kids answered the call. That's exactly what they're doing.
You know,
And from your perspective, don't just scare them, talk to them, right?
Well, what's so interesting to me is what I keep hearing from everybody is they're looking for direction.
Yeah.
They're looking for people, adults, to step up and give them direction, right? And I think as adults sometimes, you know, it just happens, kids. I just want you to know that. You go from being a teenager to being the old guy in the room in the blink of an eye. It just happens, right? And so we, just like the generation when I was a kid, looked at us like, you know, they're just kids and they don't want to be bothered by us, right? And that's not true, man. Maybe you don't want to be bothered, but you certainly want information, and you clearly are looking for direction. For me to hear you say, we would love the teachers to come out of the classrooms and see what's going on, right? they're looking for help. They're looking for direction, and we need to open up our ears and hear that and do something about it.
Great information. Thank you.
May I share
Thank
a
you.
thought before you move on?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You know, it occurred to me while I was listening to the discussions this weekend, and Jim was saying, you know, I can actually remember back when I was their age, and I don't remember facing these kind of dilemmas, at least not in the classroom. You know, really, we're asking these folks to demonstrate a great amount of courage. We're asking them to encounter, I think, in my opinion, issues that, quite honestly, we're still struggling with as adults, with greater resources than they have every day to deal with. So, you know, as we go about doing what we're going to do, whether it's our distinguished governor here or our president or all the different people that want to make a difference, I think we need to do everything we can to celebrate their courage. Amen. But also we need to do everything we can to muster whatever courage we may need so that these kids don't go out on a limb and they're all out there by themselves.
Okay, much more to talk about. We'll get back to you, panel, I promise. But first, a quick break. We'll be right back.